You're listening to the Freedom is Served podcast with me, Steph Ward. Subscribe for more. Welcome to Freedom is Served. Today I am joined by Anna Mosley. Welcome.
Hi, Steph.
How are you?
I am great. It's good to be here. I'm really excited for our chat, actually.
Yeah, me too. So, Anna, I just want to let all the listeners and viewers know what is it that you do, and then we're going to jump straight into how you define freedom in your life.
Oh, I love that. Well, I am a high performance leadership coach, Steph, and I am very passionate about bridging the gap between mental fitness and high performance. I get leaders mentally fit, specifically female founders, mentally fit so that they can absolutely thrive both in their business and in their life, driving high performance culture to deliver sustainable growth. I believe you can have it all, maybe not at the same time, but I like to train and coach people on how they can achieve that and become the CEO of their lives.
Yeah, and I can definitely second
And
that.
you can vouch for that one, right?
Together. Yeah, for sure. So the CEO of your life, just explain that a bit more.
Well, my backstory is that unfortunately, as a result of severe perfectionism as a high achiever, and I think many women especially can relate to this, I had a very performative life where I would give everything and then burn out and give everything and then burn out. And what I've learned is it's not about putting your foot down on the pedal just on the work front or in your business. You're going to leave just the dregs in the cup for your family and your loved ones if you do that. I've learned the hard way through a breakdown that actually it's about zooming out and seeing your life as a pie. So I'm very passionate about this theory of be the CEO of your life. Life is a pie. Let's make sure that we are tending to all the segments of that pie so that we can really thrive in our business and achieve even more than ever because we're more balanced and fulfilled.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, for being a busy business owner, and especially, we're both mums as well and wives, and there's so many plates to try and spin at once. For yourself,
there are so many plates.
Yeah, for yourself, how do you actually define, okay, I am in the area I need to be each day or each week even?
Well, let's firstly acknowledge this plate spinning. And I do think when you're a high achiever, as many business owners I find are, they're ambitious people normally. And then we throw parenthood into the mix. There really are so many plates to spin. And I think as women especially, don't we try and want to be everything to everyone, and it's flipping well not possible. The problem is when I used to drop a plate in the past, Steph, I used to absolutely beat myself up for it. I felt like I was failing, had this really unrealistic ambition to be this perfect mum and perfect wife with a perfect figure and a perfect leader in the business I was in at the time. And it's just totally unsustainable. So how do I achieve that now, you ask? The more balanced approach.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, I am imperfect and I'm cool with that. I never used to be able to say that. I accept that. Of course, I'm going to drop a ball.
Yeah.
I'm juggling so many different things, but I don't expect 100% in any of those areas. So I teach passionately what I call the 80% energy rule.
Yeah.
And that effectively is 80% is enough 99% of the time, because the old me used to go for 100% all the time, and it was unsustainable. It led to that breakdown, right? My biggest eureka moment was recognizing that, blimey, if I can learn to manage my energy, if when I'm doing anything, whether that's me being with the kids or me completing a task in my business, if I can aim where possible to give no more than 80%, which by the way is 80% not really quite a lot, then I will have the headspace to, one, be able to do better with that task or be more present because I'm not trying to over control it and complete it perfectly. So I find that my skills come through more and my personality is more dynamic with this approach. But most importantly, for those moments in life when you do need to tune up to 100%, let's say the kids are off sick, or let's say that it's a particularly busy period at work, or maybe I'm on a stage speaking to lots of people because I do a lot of stage speaking. Those moments you do need to tune up to 100%. You've got fuel in the tank because you've managed your energy effectively up to that point. So I think that mindfulness around energy management has absolutely changed my life. And I know that many of my clients report back to me saying that that 80% rule's changed theirs too,
Yeah, and you've
which
worked
means
with
the
some big
world.
clients, haven't you? Some,
Yeah. It's usually the 80% rule that people say, goodness me, that literally transformed the way I view parenthood, the way I view my business. Because it allows us to remove that weight, Steph. There's so much weight trying to be the best to everything and to everyone.
yeah,
If we can accept that usually good is enough, actually, ironically, we end up performing better than we did when we had the foot down on the pedal because we're more balanced, because we feel more fulfilled, and we can be more focused in those moments and
yeah,
enjoy life more. I mean,
exactly.
it's a
And
win-win.
yeah, you don't just, teach this. Like you literally, your company is called 80, right?
I know.
So
That's how
this
much I
is,
believe in it. My
yeah,
company's actually called
exactly.
80.
And that's a lifestyle choice. Is that
Yeah.
right? Is that fair to say?
100% is a lifestyle choice. And I do
100% or
think,
80%?
yeah, the 80% rule. And I do think some of the best companies are purpose driven. I am
Yeah,
on a mission to impact as many female founders as possible to help them realize that you absolutely can achieve peak performance consistently
yeah,
with this more balanced approach, with this energy management 80% rule approach. And I've got
and
heaps of evidence of women that have done it. You're one of them, Steph. You absolutely boss your life and
it
you see it as
definitely
a
does
pie.
make a difference. Yeah, it makes a
Yeah,
huge difference because you just change the mindset around the pressure, and everybody puts pressure on themselves, but the pressure of, okay, how do I want to show up? What do I want it to look like? And how sustainable do I want to be as a business owner and a mum and everything else? And a person for myself, like how sustainable is it if we're giving 100% all of the time? Well, we all know it isn't, because at some point we fall down,
of course.
and that's not the kind of, and it's the freedom of that mindset, I think, that's made a real difference for me.
It is a freedom of the mindset, which is a great word, isn't it, in the light of this podcast? Um, it's interesting because some people might think, oh my goodness, I'm a high achiever. I can't not work hard.
Mm,
But I'm not going to do as well if I don't work hard. But ironically, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you can be more balanced with the energy you give, you'll get better results because you'll get more consistency. Any high achiever wants consistency, right?
yeah,
This
of
is what
course.
athletes do. They're not on 100 all the time. They're on 100 in those moments where they're competing,
Yeah,
but they're very mindful, boxers especially, for example, of giving the 80.
yeah,
It's very strategic. It's actually a very smart power move, in my opinion.
yeah. And what traps do you see people fall in before they actually get to the point where they need to implement this kind of mindset, where they're actually, they're implementing a strategy, if you like you've just said, it's a strategy for being high performing rather than not giving your all.
Gosh, there's quite a few traps. I mean, perfectionism is definitely a big trap that many fall into. Aiming for the 100%, putting extreme pressure on themselves, having a very critical inner voice as a result, which converts to low self-esteem,
Yeah,
and then they're feeling really crappy about themselves and low. That's a very common trap, not just for females, but it is common in high achieving females. I think
definitely.
another trap, Steph, until you learn this 80% rule, is people pleasing.
Yeah,
It's a lack of boundaries, thinking that because you're getting asked a lot of yourself, because a high achiever is going to get asked to do more projects or help more or be the hub of the family.
yeah, it's like
And
when you're good at something, do it
yeah,
more,
you're in
and then you're like,
demand.
oh.
Yeah. And if they've not got those boundaries, which I didn't, people used to
Yeah,
ask a lot of me, and I used to always give it because I didn't want to let people down.
yeah,
Otherwise, I wasn't perfect. I wanted to come across like I knew my stuff all the time. So learning to fill your own cup first very much is part of this 80% rule. Energy management is about putting your own oxygen mask on first,
yeah,
realizing that then you will be able to serve others better.
yes.
And as a mum, like, that's very meaningful, isn't it? Our kids come first, but we can't look after them if our battery's not charged.
Yeah, definitely.
And
That
that's been a
really,
huge mind shift for me.
yeah, 100% for me too, and thankfully
Yeah,
because of that 80% rule, it just seems to click because you understand then. It's a really simple way of explaining how
yeah.
to be consistent, you need to give less, not nothing, just
But
less,
80%'s a lot.
more of the time.
Steph, on that note, let me throw something in the mix which will make you laugh.
Go
I
on.
don't know if you've heard me say this before, but to get a first at Cambridge University, some people
Okay.
know this, but to get a first at Cambridge University, and I'd be very impressed if someone said they went there, let alone if they got a first, you have
Yeah.
to get 70%.
Oh, really?
You have to get 70% to get a first. Now,
Well, sign
what
us
does
up
that
then.
tell us? Do you think 80% might be enough?
Yes. Yeah.
Flipping heck. I'll tell you one more pattern that I've noticed in myself and in many others, and that is fear of failure,
Yeah.
and a very unhelpful view towards mistake making.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I have created a ton of freedom
Yeah.
in myself by embracing mistakes, actually recognizing not only that good is enough and that everyone makes mistakes, but I have started to want to make mistakes.
Yeah, and you said as well to me that you've been actively like, if you accidentally broke a plate or something, you'd be like, "Oh, kids, I've just done this," to
Yeah, I tell
show
my
them
kids.
firsthand, like, I've made a
Yeah.
mistake. That's okay. We fail
I want to
forward.
normalize it. I want to normalize it, Steph,
Yeah,
because I wasn't that mum before. I was the mum that wanted to be perfect. I hid any insecurities. I hated the idea of being
yeah,
vulnerable. I saw it as a weakness. Now I see it as an absolute superpower. And yeah, I do. I share that with my children because I want them to believe that it's actually better to make mistakes than it is to hide them or not make them at all.
yeah. And the fact that you can learn not only from the mistake, but also that gives you the power to understand how things can be different. I mean, obviously, we just
Yeah,
said
how
about
do you grow
creating
without,
things, but
how the heck do you grow without bending or breaking something? You
that's
can't,
it.
can
You
you?
can't. If everything's just been one way forever, there is
No.
no flexibility. There's no, it almost doesn't allow anyone to think outside the box.
100%, that's true. And something I'm super passionate about is growth mindset. That's
Yeah,
integral to all my teachings when I'm training leaders. I'm training them to become that mentally fit leader so that then they can adopt a growth mindset and have the right headspace and clarity to apply it. And
yeah,
then they start failing forward and their business starts growing or their team start looking up to them and being inspired and then they start failing forward and it's a domino effect. But it
yes,
does start with us as the business owner or the leader of a business. It always starts from top down.
yeah,
And I suppose this is a message of culture,
yes.
and how we breed the right culture within our business, how no matter how small or big it might be.
And you did have a corporate background before you ran your own business. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I started on the L'Oreal grad scheme, which was
Okay.
really quite hardcore
Yeah,
back then. That was a very competitive grad scheme to get on. So I was really chuffed when I got on it. But
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that most people on that grad scheme were perfectionists.
yeah,
All burnt out. We were the first in the office, the last to leave. It was quite unhealthy looking back. There's a lot of learnings from that period. Definitely a lot of people pleasing, a lot of inauthenticity and just pretending I was all right and I was the bubbly
yeah,
one, but it was all an act. This is
yeah,
what I mean by the performative nature that I used to have. Whereas now I probably come across as very bubbly and positive, but this is real.
yeah.
I don't wear a mask anymore. That was exhausting.
And do you think within corporate settings that is kind of expected when you're coming into, as a graduate or in a grad scheme? That's kind of you're here to basically work your arse off, no matter what the cost. Whereas as an entrepreneur and a business owner now, we have a much more, I feel there's much more, and it might just be the way we are now in 2026, or it might just be a cultural thing, but now it's more about, it's not cool to be burnt out. Nobody wants to get to burnout. That's not okay. And we need to look after
Thank goodness
ourselves.
things have
Whereas,
changed.
yeah, before it felt like,
It was a badge of honour to be
yeah,
busy.
if
Badge
you,
of honour
yeah,
to have a burnout. Oh my goodness, how unhealthy is
if
that?
you weren't burning out, like you're not doing enough. Why aren't you working harder? Try harder.
Yeah, and this whole so to answer that, yeah, the climate or the landscape has changed considerably. Thank goodness,
Yeah,
COVID did us a lot of favors. Lockdown did
yeah,
us a lot of favors, and a lot of businesses have really stepped up culturally. I mean, there
yeah,
still is a lot of work to be done, but they're much more aware, aren't they? Um, and yeah, thank goodness these days that people are open to working smarter, not harder, which is another message that I hammer home all the time. If I was a leader in a business now, and obviously I've got a team now, but if I was in a big business with a big team,
yeah,
I would really be questioning someone who was working late. I'd be questioning, why aren't they being more productive with how they're spending their time?
Oh,
Why they
interesting.
haven't they got more discipline to get what they need to get done? Why have they not asked for help? Have
Okay.
they got the right resource to get it done? My mind would be very different on, right, how can I get them working smarter?
Yeah. And
Because
with
that badge of
lone
honor isn't, it doesn't
working,
exist anymore.
yeah, with lone working, then whether you're a business owner or, in that aspect where you've just said somebody's staying late, they're obviously not relying on the team to all help, ask for help or do anything like
Mm.
that. How do you think people need to manage their expectations with lone working when it comes to like filling up the 80%? Because, as a business owner, for myself and a multiple business owner, it feels like
Mm.
the jobs are never ending some days, like never ever ending. And that is a trap I think I could easily fall into if I wasn't mindful of, okay, now, say end of the day, I need to switch off. I need to do family time. This is what I have chosen and the freedom that I choose to be able to be flexible with my time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and I can relate to that, right? I'm a busy business owner too, so I totally
Yeah.
relate to the temptation at times to work too hard. But
Yeah.
this is where boundaries are crucial. We've got to be able to zoom out to that pie, and we've got to be able to assess, am I giving the right amount of energy to my kids,
Yeah.
to my husband, for example, to my fitness? And we've got to, I would suggest once a month, zoom out and think, how's that balance been, and do I need to adjust it? So
Yeah.
I have boundaries about not working evenings, not working weekends. That doesn't mean to say on occasion I don't, because
Yeah.
recently I've had to, right?
Okay.
However, I'm very mindful that a boundary is being temporarily crossed. And there's no choice in this matter. At times we have to tune up to 100, and I've had those
Yeah.
moments recently. But because I'm so mindful, I know it's temporary. And that's the
Okay.
trick. What we don't want is something to turn into a long term habit,
Yeah.
and I just ain't going to allow that because I'm very clear on my values and what matters. So I
Yes.
think it's about knowing what your boundaries are and zooming out to the pie and assessing and auditing where you're at.
So if we zoomed out to your pie now, your ideal pie, what does that look like then? What's it made up of?
Well, my ideal, so the split would be probably very relatable to most people. So the split of my pie would be business, obviously my business,
Yeah.
my family,
Mm-hmm.
my little girls, 11 and 9 million days are the world to me. It would be my relationship because that is the foundation upon which my family sits. So it's really
Yes.
important to keep the work on, put the work in there. For example, having the odd date night or some quality time to chat.
Yeah.
Sounds simple, doesn't it? But it doesn't always happen. Um, Fitness and nutrition is another segment. Social life is another one. And I would say a hobby or doing what, self care is,
Yeah.
is another segment. To keep this simple,
Yeah.
people have slightly different slices, but I think we can all relate to those ones. Um, and the amount of energy I give those is different, but I'm
Yeah.
very mindful of tending to each of them, if that makes sense. One that I'm very mindful that I've let slip recently is exercise.
Okay.
And I might be a coach and train this all the time, but of course I have my own challenges. But the wonderful thing is I jump on it fast. Like I'm so aware of it that
Yeah.
I can put in some sort of action. Because what we don't want to do as business owners is stay in victim mode or denial and not confront what can be changed.
Yeah.
And this relates to a framework that I think you've heard me talk about, Steph, which is we really need to keep ourselves above the line.
Yes. I
When
love
we
that.
Yeah, so when we fall below the line, for any listeners that have not heard this, when we fall below the line, we are either making excuses, we're in denial, or we're blaming something. Humans are flipping brilliant at blaming the traffic or the partner or the something or the workload.
Yeah.
When we are moaning or we feel any sort of anxiety, anger, jealousy, anything negative, we are
Yeah.
definitely below the line. The quest is to keep ourselves above,
Yeah.
which means we're in our power, we're taking action, we're accountable, basically. And all the good emotions come when you're above. But what I'm sharing is, like every other human, of course I slip below the line. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter that I'm training it all the time. I've slipped below the line with my exercise. I have now got a plan in place where it is time blocked when I'm going on the Peloton this week. And that will happen because
Perfect.
I know when it's in my diary, it
Yeah.
will happen, which I know is something you do too, isn't it? Time
Yeah,
blocking.
definitely. Yeah, time blocking for me is, well, I have to do it because I can get so engrossed in things. The next thing you look at the clock and you're like, oh my God, I've been working on this for hours. But,
Yeah.
time blocking for me is important, but not just time blocking at work. time
Yes.
blocking, you know,
Absolutely. Your whole
in
life.
life, really. Life is this balance now that
Yeah.
you know, and I've learned this from you, to be honest. It's not about balance, it's about flow. And because things
100%.
are up and down all the time, like
Yeah.
you know, sometimes work's going to be busier than home life. Sometimes home life's going to take a priority. That is
So
just the
true.
flow.
That's a really good point. I talk about work life blend, which means the same as what you've
Blend,
said, the
yeah,
flow.
yeah,
Work life blend. And it's different for everyone. Some people want to be in their business all the time and they love that. That's okay if that's what, if that's what switches them on. It's not what
yeah,
switches me on. As much as I absolutely love my business, it's about the blend of being able to be present with my children. Like for me, that is a success factor. I
yeah,
used to chase very different things, as you probably did, Steph, in terms of my definition of success. When I was on the L'Oreal grad scheme, it was like when I'm the managing director, when I
yeah,
earn X amount, when I've got another house or a second home, when I've got
yeah.
a third child. I mean, I was a right old chaser. Literally, I
But we
was a
fall
chaser.
into it though because we've not really, you know, for want of a better phrase, we're conditioned to be like that. If you,
Especially perfectionist thinkers that it's, all or nothing, when all is quite, infinite, isn't it? All's
yeah,
a lot of different things. So now my measures of success are: have I been present with the children this week?
yeah,
Have I got a great energy from my business this week? Have I
hmm,
managed to exercise 3 times? It's about being to what I want is to be able to afford the life that enables me to give myself, my husband, my kids all the experiences that we want. Because life for me is about connection and experiences. Connection and
yeah,
impact are
definitely.
two of my top values.
Yep,
So it's interesting, I think, in summary, how our definition of success can change over the years, and it's not about the money and the constant chasing. Although
yeah,
I am still ambitious.
oh
You know,
yeah,
I've got a big ambition for this business,
yeah.
but it's not just about that. It's about the whole pie.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this is where we kind of connected in the first place. I was always chasing as well, and but then I couldn't get my head around the fact that you never get anywhere. And what I mean by that is
There's no end.
yeah, I was always going to a destination, but I never realized there is no destination because when you get to what you think was the destination, your destination's changed again. So there
Yeah, the
really is no true
goalpost changes,
destination.
doesn't it?
Yeah. And it's about the journey and embracing the journey. And I think I've always had that like tug of war with myself of like, how can I be a good mum and a business owner and this and that? And that's why really staying above the line has given me that freedom mentality that actually I choose what I want to do with my day. I choose when something is a little bit more important than other things. I can prioritize my life because I don't have to go to a 9 to 5 and work for somebody else. I don't have to basically be a registration for somebody else. I
How
make
great
my
is
own
that, by the
days.
way?
Yeah. And my
That
own,
is
you know, my life is
amazing.
how I want it to be
Yeah.
because I realize now you can't do everything at 100% at a million miles an hour all the time, but you can do things consistently when you use that 80% rule.
Absolutely. You described that so well as well. And what we're talking about here, Steph, wouldn't you agree, is self leadership. I'm
Yes.
always saying, like a broken record, leadership starts with self
Yeah,
leadership. Well, it
yeah.
really does. So when we talk about keeping ourselves above the line, being accountable, and we both agree that time blocking for us personally really helps us,
Yeah.
that's us recognizing our personality style. For me, I am a certain personality style that is full of energy. I love the journey and excitement. New stuff
Yeah.
excites me. I'm not very disciplined, and I could just go off to the next shiny thing
Yeah.
and jump enthusiastically in the wrong direction. So I
The
have to self lead.
shiny
Yeah,
penny syndrome. Yeah.
so, exactly. So I have to manage myself accordingly. And for me,
Yeah.
that is becoming more the opposite personality as much as I can. The one that's more ordered and
Yes.
systematic. And I know that you've thought this through in that way too, with yourself and how you manage yourself. And I think that is key in being the CEO of your life, self leadership.
Yeah. Because I can get very, um, you know, fixated on what it is I want to achieve. And it's almost like
Yeah.
Nothing else matters in that moment. I mean, obviously it does, but sometimes you can get so consumed with what you're doing right there and then. So
Yeah.
for me, that's why time blocking works, because I have to then, you know, park that. You've had the time you've spent on that, and then it helps me to find that flow and that blend that otherwise I would just be all or nothing. And
Hmm.
I have, or I would have used to have had very black and white thinking, and you've helped me to understand that we need this grey thinking. I mean, grey
Oh yeah,
would be
grey
a
is the best
descriptive,
colour ever.
yeah, it would be a descriptive color that you would usually think, oh, I don't want to be grey, I want to be like
No,
black or white, I want to know what I'm doing,
I
but it's not
flipping love
about
the
that, is
grey
it?
area. The grey area is most of life. It's like the unknown. It's the learning. It's the journey. Everything you're saying. It's the most beautiful part of being alive.
And I
And
think
most people
most
are
people
so
miss it. Yeah.
they miss it and they're fearful of it, Steph. Which
Okay.
I totally get because we're all doing the best with the resources we've got, and some people
Yeah.
aren't trained to have a growth mindset. They don't understand what that means, and they're not trained that discomfort equals growth. These are all
Okay.
messages that you and I are familiar with.
Yeah.
But many people fear the grey, but actually it's the best bit. It's where you
Yeah.
find yourself. It's where you connect. It's all the good stuff.
And I'm really interested to know then, you obviously mentioned about some kind of markers of if you've had a great week, have you been present with the kids? Has the energy felt good in the business? Do you ask the kids for feedback on that? Do you include them in what it looks like to you?
Well, I definitely include them on reflection of how their week's gone and what
Okay.
they did well. So that's a very important thing that we do as as a family, or just me in the back of the car or whatever. I'll
Yeah.
make sure they're processing their week as much as I can get them to process their week. For example, I'll say to Millie, what was the thing today that you did really well? So this might be day
Okay.
specific. And
Yeah.
she might say, I don't know, I played with the new girl. And I'll
Yeah.
say, well, what does it mean that you played with the new girl? What does that say about you? And she'll
Okay.
process that by saying, I'm a good friend. And, I
Yeah.
help them reflect. And
Yeah.
actually, that's an interesting point for you, Steph, because you're really fast paced. I mean, you are a very impressive businesswoman and person.
Thank
You're
you.
very fast paced. I have noticed that you are starting to stop your pace sometimes to
Yeah.
reflect.
I am
And I
mind.
think
Yeah. Very
that
mindful of
is
that at the moment.
crucial. That is crucial if you want continuous improvement, if you want to charge your battery so that you've got momentum to keep going, if you
Yeah.
want to keep your self esteem topped up, if you want to keep getting better in any way, you've got to stop and think how far I've already come. And I feel
Yeah.
like you do that more, don't you?
Yeah. It's interesting that you've recognized that, because I haven't well, I definitely haven't told you I've been doing that on purpose, but it's something that I have really now understood, that if I don't recognize what's gone, I will never feel that what's to come is enough.
Yeah. But
Does
also,
that make
what's
sense?
gone is your wisdom, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's gone is the wisdom to move forward. I've definitely noticed that in you. And I very much admire that in people because many high achievers can keep chasing.
Yeah.
But it usually does come from a place of insecurity. Why the reason why people keep chasing? Because for me, when I used to be that way, it was
Yeah.
definitely because I thought. But when I've achieved that, when I'm in the MD position at L'Oreal, I'll be good enough then. When I've got the bigger house, I'll be good enough then.
Yeah.
But I now have learned to create this real inner sense of power, which is what I train and coach people on how to create,
Yeah.
that keeps me buoyant. And there's such freedom that comes from that, Steph, because that means, yes, I don't care if I make mistakes. I just, I can smile about it or learn from it even better.
Yeah.
But I am who I am. I don't expect everyone to love me or like me now. And I used to be obsessed with that.
Yeah, and I feel, the same, that I am understanding myself more. Therefore, my confidence not only in, myself, but the life I'm creating and choosing. That's okay. It might not work for everybody, but it's what I want. It's what works for my family, and that's okay. And I think,
Yeah.
there's definitely been this transition period through me recognizing that, and
Mm.
other people seeing the change as well, which is great.
Mm.
It's great to see it, but it also means that on reflection, blimey, I must have been so fast paced and so all in and so, so just off the mark that
But it got
we
you
go
so
like,
far in life, though. It helped you achieve, but there was a
hmm,
dark, detrimental side. I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
for me, there was, because there was burnout, and
Oh, and
I
me
wasn't
too.
giving my
Yeah.
attention to the right things. Yeah. So, and something I observe as well is I'm quite big on linguistics. I'm a
Okay.
master in neuro linguistic programming, NLP. Some people have probably heard of it.
Yeah.
And I notice the words you're using, Steph, you're using words with such agency. You're
Yeah.
like, I am choosing,
Yeah.
I chose this life. I don't have to go and report to someone in the morning. Your words just say it all. They are a
Yeah.
reflection of how above the line you are. And that is you being in the driving seat. And do you know what? When we feel in the driving seat, and it is just a feeling, you
Yeah.
just cannot create stress and anxiety like you used to. It's actually impossible.
Yeah.
So that's the aim of
A
the game, keeping in that
hundred
driving
percent.
seat.
This podcast is called Freedom is Served because I recognize now that I have the choice to serve my own freedom, and I want to be able to share with others that are listening, but also share with guests like yourself on the podcast. Actually, what are those strategies? What are those thoughts? What is that mindset that people can implement so they are able to choose a life of freedom? And that doesn't mean you don't have to work. It doesn't mean you do have to work. It means that freedom means you can do whatever you want to do because you've given yourself the choice. Like
I
you've
love that.
allowed yourself the choice.
Yeah,
So
you
if
give
I just
yourself
ask you
permission.
one last question then, Anna, how do you find freedom in your life? What would be the one thing that makes you feel free?
Okay. God, there's a few things here that come to mind.
Okay.
Um, so what's the one thing that makes me feel free? That is definitely having let go.
Okay,
It
great.
is the 80%. I'm coming back to it again. It's the recognition that good is enough.
Yeah.
That weight and that pressure is long gone. So even
Yeah.
if honestly, even if I'm on a stage in front of hundreds and hundreds of people and I tripped, which obviously isn't ideal, is it?
No.
I honestly would be able to cope really well with that. I'd laugh it off. I'd make it part of I'd start talking about the grey area and what can we learn from
Yeah.
that? And is everyone enjoying it? And I would never have been able to do that. So realizing that good enough is my ultimate gateway to
Yeah.
freedom. But the other thing I want to say to answer your question is I create and time block moments for the freedom. So
Okay.
I've already got it in the diary when me and my husband are going away to the Cotswolds for the night. If,
Nice.
if you're talking about literal freedom,
Yeah,
because we all do need to escape, right? Um,
That's
I've
right.
already got all the holidays for the year booked because it's time blocking, isn't it? Like you said,
Yeah.
you do it across your whole life. I am creating the pockets of freedom. And I also say no to things which I never used to. I say no to
That is a
protect
big
my
difference.
yeses.
That definitely does make a huge difference. Being able to say no to what
Yes.
doesn't serve you. And
Yeah.
that is ultimately the choice. You've got a choice. And
Yeah.
me and you both have previously just been like, oh, I've got to say yes because we don't want people to think anything less of us. And it's just it doesn't
Yeah.
that certainly doesn't serve freedom. I know that for a fact.
Yeah. So
So
I think to wrap that last point up, it's not just about choosing what you do, which is beautiful from an agency point of view. It is choosing what you don't do.
yeah. Yeah, 100% agree with that. Well, thank you so much for your time. You have been listening to Freedom is Served. I am Steph Ward, and I've been joined by the incredible Anna Mosley, and we will be speaking more about freedom on the next episode. Thanks,
So
Anna.
brilliant, Steph. Thanks for having me.
You're listening to the Freedom is Served podcast with me, Steph Ward. Subscribe for more.